Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Tami's Table. Woo, I'm off to a good start. Um, Listen, I'm so excited that you're here. We have all been to that awesome house party where random people end up in the kitchen cooking, eating, laughing, gabbing, solving the world's problems, mostly the personal ones. And that's what Tami's Table is all about. So I'm excited that you're here. I invite you to pull up a chair and grab a seat. Um, so I was at one of these parties yesterday, which was so awesome. Went to my uncle's house. My brother was there. My cousin was there. And somehow we all landed in the kitchen and we were literally solving problems. So I know that this is not anything in my head. It's a real thing. And I'm excited today because once a month, sometimes more, I try and do a show that's specifically geared towards families that have kids with special needs. It is a different sort of challenge. And part of my goal with Tami's Table is to teach people how to build resilience in the face of adversity. So, what does that mean? It means finding inner strength, having the confidence and competence to go through your next challenge from a place of strength and optimism and really leaning into it. So today is that show, and I'm super excited to have my sister on. I'm not even gonna call her a guest, like my sister, Sharon Weber.
Hello, hello. It was so nice to see you guys again and be part of this again. I'm
Yeah,
really excited.
happy that you're back. Happy that
Yeah.
you're back. Um, so Sharon, I wanted to talk today, and this was your idea, and I think it's a great idea. Listen, just to level set, we both have kids with special needs. We've both, I mean, we've been dealing with this. Like Trey is 17 and Chris is 16.
Almost. May
Yeah,
25th.
yeah, that's a long time to be
Yes,
dealing with this. And I think you're like me. Like every time it came close to the summer, it was freak out mode. Like
absolutely.
we like rely on school and that schedule to keep order in our lives.
Right, right.
And then the summer
Absolutely.
comes along and it's complete chaos.
Right, right. So, yeah, I mean, it can be chaotic, anxiety driven, scary,
Yeah, absolutely.
overwhelming, all of the
Completely,
above.
completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
So today I thought we could talk about like how do you prep for the summer? And I think there's two sides of that. One is like how do you prep your kid
Mm-hmm.
that your routine is going to be different?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple of ideas about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you actually prep your life
Right.
for the
Right.
routine being completely different? So, um let's talk about like prepping your kid. And I also think it's worth saying that there is extended year learning,
Mhm.
but that also ends. That's only for like
Absolutely.
4 weeks. So thanks a
Absolutely.
lot for the 4 weeks of breathing. But then at some point it ends, and you literally have like the rest of the summer to figure that out.
Right.
What?
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at first I want to oh, I'm sorry. Were you
No, no, go ahead.
okay? So first I want to start with the extended school year that you
Hmm.
mentioned. It's important that you ask for extended school year when you have your IEP earlier in the year, right? Because you can't wait until close to the summer to then ask for extended school year or request it from the school district because sometimes they already made plans for who is going to be the children that are going to be participating in extended school year. And you always have, some parents, they do go away, right? And they choose not to have their child in extended school year because they have some sort of camp that they're participating in.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say that first, that sometimes, I mean, I know we're almost, the
Fingers
end of
crossed.
May at this point. But the earlier, the better to try to prep for the summer. And
That's a good point, Sharon, because I got to tell you, I didn't know anything about the extended year program.
mhm, mhm,
And then I was actually talking to one of my son's teachers, and I was like, I'm freaking out about what I'm going to do all summer.
right.
It was like, oh, yeah, well, we have extended year learning for the next 4 weeks. That was news to me. So I think that's a really good public service announcement.
Absolutely.
Is being
A lot of times I just want to say that what happens, like the law in regards to extended school year, is based on the need of the child. Like, so if they feel like, if the child study team feels like they will regress during that time, then, it's a no brainer that they will be able to participate
hmm
and eligible to participate in the extended school year. Most of the families that I know don't have a problem with,
hmm
you know, uh,
getting access to it.
getting access to extended school years. But
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there that, if the child study team feels as if your child won't regress within the 4 weeks, or however, two
hmm
months,
hmm
that the child's out of school, they can say no, right? That
Yeah.
they don't feel like they need the extended school year.
Yeah.
So,
Let's let's talk about prepping your child.
mhm,
For me, I would start telling Trey in advance
mhm,
that like school's almost over,
mhm.
like just I think part of like helping your children with special needs manage their life is letting them know what's coming.
That's so important.
Yeah,
That's
and
such a
even I
good
mean, I have
point.
my son that doesn't have special needs. He just likes to know the plan. I think maybe
A
that's just like a kid thing.
Yes, I was actually going to say that, because it makes things a lot easier, because they're prepared, just like we like to be prepared of what's gonna happen next, right?
Mhm.
The kids, regardless whether they have, special needs or not, they like to know what's gonna happen next, because
Uh,
it gives them a sense of security.
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to think about it. Um, what about routines? Like, do you try and keep the same routine over the summer, or do you sort of, do something completely different?
Well, I try to keep some routines, which is like some sort of the bedtime routine. I mean, like not the same exact time, but you know, not having them stay up, half of the night and
Mhm.
sleep most of the day, because
Mhm.
you know, I am a working mom, so I have to get up regardless of whether someone's still like tired or
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
So that I try to keep the same, like the meals I try to keep the same. The routine, like during the day, kind of shifts, especially in August, because I try to find things to do, right? I
Right.
try to find things, like my son, he likes to be outdoors. He likes to move around. I know this about him. So I look up things, and you know what? It doesn't have to cost, a lot of money. A lot of times we go to, in New Jersey, they have what is called, the boathouse. So he likes to walk and he likes nature. So we walk, they have a walking trail. We go
Mhm.
to the zoo. We can make a whole day of that. So like those are the types of things that I try to like look up and do in the month of August to make things easier for me and for him, because the more we
So,
have activity, the better. So,
yeah, so what you're saying, like, from a routine, if I can interpret, from a routine standpoint, you have some block time every day where you're going to be outside doing something.
Absolutely.
And I think what you said is so great because it doesn't have to cost, like having a kid with special needs is expensive already.
Absolutely.
So yeah, finding things to do that are free or low cost, I think it's possible. You just have to put a little effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I created in my house, we had a visual schedule. So I cut out pictures like from magazines
Mm-hmm.
and posted them onto a piece of, a poster board so that, my son knew like we're gonna get up and we're gonna have, I'm gonna feed you because he eats through a G tube. And then we're gonna do a little work, which to me was like, let's practice spelling or let's put like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. There was like work on
Mm-hmm.
the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like free time. And I would ask, like, what do you want to do with your free time? Like, what do you want to do? Obviously, he always said like iPad. But to your point, I tried to get him outside, but I think there's like, what are your thoughts about like visual calendars so that as you're approaching the summer, like you have a like sort of a roadmap every day?
I think that is a great idea. I think whether, children are verbal or nonverbal, it helps because always, some children and some, I'm a visual learner. So I
Mhm.
like to see things like in black and white, like Um, so yes, a visual schedule of the day
Mhm.
is perfect of
Mhm.
what's going to go on, even if it's different from day to day. Okay, Monday we're going to do this, Tuesday we're going to
Mhm.
do that, Wednesday we're going to do that, and Thursday we'll see. Whatever it is, I think that helps them process the day and be a little bit more organized. And related to that is less dysregulation and uh, frustration on their part.
Yeah, it's funny. I learned that from my friend Kimberly, who had two sons, and she had Camp Cohen every summer.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally would put on at the beginning of the week, they would all sit down and cut out different pictures of different things. By the way, her kids were neurotypical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they had their plan for the week, and
Right.
everybody knew it was happening and everybody knew it was coming. It was very unstressful. So she was like, "Yeah, you should do this." So
Absolutely.
I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's very helpful to you also, so you won't have to the parent or caregiver, because then you know what the plan is, um, and it's helpful to the child because they know what the plan is too, so they know the expectation. It's all about preparing for like expectation, and so I feel like that's important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember transitions with Trey were tough. Like I was always like, okay, so in 5 minutes we're going to get dressed and go get on the bus. I think transitions are hard for a lot of kids with special needs.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so I think that's why summer is so hard because it's not just a little transition, it is like a giant transition from 9 months of schedule
Right.
to 3 months of unscheduled.
Right, right. And even that extended school year usually isn't as full a day as the regular school year.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So
It was
you
like a
still
half a
have to
day.
figure out the rest of the day.
Yeah. Um, what are you like if you could give me like 3 tips for parents just for and I know we're going to flip over to the other side like the parent side, but what are 3 things that you feel like parents of kids with special needs can do leading into the summer to make it easier for everybody?
Prepare, like preparation is the key. So don't wait until like June, whenever the last day of school is, to start
Mhm.
preparing for like, oh my God, what am I going to do for the summer? The
Right.
schedule board is a big ticket item in reference to helping everybody organize. And then, yes, having them actually maybe be part of the decision making of some of the things that they would like to do.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Good stuff. Listen, let's take a quick break, and then I'm looking forward to coming back with Sharon Weber and Tammy's table. We'll talk. See you on either side.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Solivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Oh, let me wake up. That commercial always like lulls me into sleep. Do what you love what you do. um so Sharon, I am back live, by the way. It's Tammy's table. I'm excited to have Sharon Weber, who was my sister from another Mr. on. Um we are talking about how you prep for the summer, which I just think is incredibly stressful. Um yeah, it's always been a stressful time. So Sharon, we just talked about like how we could help the kids.
Hmm.
I think it's worthwhile talking about um tips for the parents.
Hmm.
And you just said one thing that is so incredibly important, which is scheduling activities, like planning in advance. Like
Yes.
don't wait till the end of June to decide like wow, I should do something.
Right.
So I do want to put in a couple of plugs because I found a camp for my son that was amazing. Camp Maryhart, uh,
Hmm.
Easter Seals.
Yep.
There's camps out there. I feel like part of the problem, Sharon, is that parents don't know where to go
Right.
to get the
Right.
resources. Like, I don't even know how I learned. Okay, here's how I learned about Camp Maryhart. This is crazy. I was giving a presentation, a business presentation, and shared part of my story, like about my kids, and I'm a single mom.
Hmm.
And at the end of the presentation, this woman was like, "Hey, I'm on the board of Easter Seals. Like, do you know they have a camp for kids with special needs?" I was like, "What?"
Right.
So I had absolutely no idea. And by the way, like they have financial aid available, they have
Hmm.
scholarships available,
Hmm.
but all that stuff you have to do way in advance,
Absolutely.
like months in advance.
Like December, January.
Yeah, exactly. Before all the money's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you know what? You brought up a really good point, Tammy. And before we get into like the parents, what the parents, uh, some tips for parents and what may make their lives easier. I want to give a couple of plugs as well as far as camps that even though we're in May, still some of these camps might have openings. So there is a camp which is called the Elks Camp Moore,
Mhm.
and that's a sleepaway camp. If you're feeling comfortable with sending your child away for a week,
I'm
they
sorry.
do.
Excuse me. Did you say feeling comfortable?
Well, you know what? I did
What
recently
kid?
talk
I
to a
was
mom
like,
that said they
I was like, get out. It's sleepaway.
it's sleepaway.
Deuces. I'll see you in a week.
I know, I know. Well, I give them kudos because Chris has gone there for like, except for the COVID years, I think he's gone there like 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I give them a big whoop whoop shout out.
Whoop,
Um,
whoop.
there's there's also I found from another parent a good reference. Camp Nova is also an away camp. that is a week.
Mhm.
And then there's Camp Fatima, which is an away camp for a week. But again, like you said, Tammy, these camps, typically you have to start the process in like December, January.
Yeah, because they fill up. Like they're
Right,
in great
right,
demand.
right. And
Um,
then there's some day camps. Naissance Place has a camp now, a day camp now.
mhm,
And they still have openings for the
mhm.
summer. And then Camp Hope is through, I believe, Perform Care. And I don't think it's too late for parents to sign up for that either. So I wanted to give a couple
So
of plugs as far as resources.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm totally plugging Camp Maryhart. Like Trey, they took Trey. Trey was on oxygen. He eats through a G tube. Like nobody
Hmm.
would take him because of his medical stuff.
Right.
And they were like, if you can teach us and you could talk to our nurse, like it took a lot of coordination.
Hmm.
Um, but they were like, we'll work it out. And
Right.
they did. Like his nurse, my doctor talked to their doctor. So, Sharon, this conversation that we're having is also another form of resilience, which is how you advocate for your kid.
Absolutely.
Like we don't want them to be with us all the time because they need to have some form of a quote unquote normal social experience, which is what summer camp does. Whether it's sleepaway or day camp, it's another level of interaction with their peers, and I think that's so important.
Right. Absolutely. So you're right. I feel like at some point in the summer, some points in the summer, it's highly beneficial for your child, no matter what level they're on or what disability they have, to interact with other children, whether it even be on the playground.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
remember I was, you know, years ago, I was, a little nervous about taking Chris out on the playground because he was aggressive to younger kids at that time. And, one time I was just pleasantly surprised that another child and him were parallel playing. They didn't even
Mhm,
have to say a word.
mhm, mhm.
They were
Yeah.
just running together and laughing together, and no words were spoken at all. And it was just so good to see.
That's such a great term, parallel playing.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
when Trey was growing up, they were like, "Does he play with other kids?" I'm like, yes and no."
right,
Like, they're
right.
not playing with each other, but they're playing next to each
To
other.
each other. And that's all it is. That's all it is. But in the meantime, Trey will be, periodically looking at what another child's
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah,
So he may
exactly.
pick up some skills. And that's what it's all about.
So, I have another thing that I always did. By the way, I did it with all my kids,
Hmm.
which is every day. So, there's some statistic. I don't know the exact number, so don't quote me on this,
Hmm.
but kids lose 70% of what they've learned the year before during the summer. And that's why kids, like, I think it's in Japan or in China, they go to school year round so
Yeah.
they don't lose the learning.
Right.
So I'm interested in, like, I always made my kids do a little bit of work every day, like an hour.
Yeah, I mean
What do
that's beneficial too. So they won't first of all, the thinking actually, you know, strategically and all those skills because typically aren't getting the intense like OT, speech, all of that, those related
mm,
services
mm,
um,
over the
that they
summer?
get so intensely during the year in the summer.
Yeah.
So it is good to do a little bit of work. I am a fan of continuing to do some work in the summer. A lot of times I Chris likes to actually trace and write sometimes. So I pick the things that he likes to do more so than picking the things that might be somewhat challenging for him to
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
Um, and that's how I transition him into like work related things, picking the things that he likes to do first, and then you know doing a little bit of what he has challenges doing. And then we, we would read to each other like not every night, but like, maybe 3 nights out the week, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so, yes, I do. I'm a big proponent of, continuing the education throughout the summer.
Yeah, so as we're giving tips to, people that are listening that might have kids with special needs, so the first thing is like you got to pre-plan. Like you should be planning in December what you're going to do for the summer.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
you should,
Especially if it's a camp related, if it's you have to like fill out an application or there's a
yeah,
process, or you should definitely even the extended school year, because then the IEPs are
right.
coming up and
Yeah,
you need to
exactly.
look at that and see what's going on with that. Is that already in, or do I need to call my case manager?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
so for some things listen, there's certain things in life you could let skate and do it at the last minute, but this is not
Mhm.
one of them.
Right. Right.
Um, I think I do think it's super important to continue that education over the summer. So as you're looking at your routine, as you're creating your calendar for the summer, yeah, that should be scheduled in.
Absolutely.
Make-
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I also want to plug in one other place, which is called We've Got Friends, and they do like events now, I believe, for younger kids, but it started out for teens, um, you know, for teens on the spectrum, and it started out as like a hangout, but now they have like uh, depending on your strength, like whether the children like music or dancing or singing or art. They have events throughout, the summer and through the winter, but like through the summer, to foster those things. So We've Got Friends is another resource that you could tap into, one of those things that are free that you can participate in.
Yeah, so you're giving resources for people basically in Jersey, but
Right.
I would recommend to everybody else, because this is a nationwide show.
Mhm.
If you just do a Google search on camps for special needs kids in your state, a bunch of things will pop up. I also, Sharon, did a search on what to do with my special needs kid over the
Mhm.
summer. And it turns out that the Bronx Zoo has actually a special day, and it's free to go. And it's all children with special needs. By the way, children and adolescents. Um, so I think like in general, people need to be a little resourceful. Like you can't wait for the information to come to you.
Right.
Sometimes you have to go find it,
Right.
which feels like another exhausting thing, but I don't know. You used to be a family advocate. Like you were like the bearer of information, but not every state and not every family has access to that.
Absolutely. Understood. That's a good point, Tammy. Very good point. I want to switch before I'm sorry, but just I want to focus on the parents a little bit,
Hmm.
um, because I want to just give them some tips as well. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed by what is going on with our child and we forget about ourselves. So I want to give a big plug to self care, even if it's 30 minutes throughout the day or an hour throughout the day that you can find to do for yourself. And there's things out there that you can do if you can find support for your child for a little window. Um, but it's important for you to do something for yourself throughout the summer as well.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, we both agreed it's completely stressful. I love that you said 30 minutes. I would be happy with 5.
Right.
So
Right.
my 5 minutes was like grabbing my tea. By
Hmm.
the way, I got up super early, which most people don't. I'm not a morning person, but I realized when I had all the kids at home,
Yep.
I need to get up an hour before they do so I could have time to myself.
Absolutely.
And it's a little bit of a sacrifice on sleep, but I think that's good self-care also, like just getting up before they do.
Absolutely. I think for me, I found that to be extremely beneficial. I do a little like meditation,
Mm-hmm.
early in the morning, just to kind of clear my mind and whatever that may be for you. Like,
It could be
and
anything.
just sit in quiet or, listen to
Yeah.
some soothing music or something.
Yeah.
But that helps get the day started in a right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sharon, this was a really important conversation. I think we don't talk about like the tough stuff, which is why every time you come on, I'm happy that you come on, because this is the tough stuff of having a kid with special needs.
Right.
So listen, thank you for being my guest.
Oh, anytime. My pleasure. I
I
love coming on.
appreciate it. Is there anything you have going on that you want to give a quick plug for?
Not right now. I'm just trying to do some little self-care for myself. Take care of myself before I, begin to shout out to others. So,
Awesome. I love that you're practicing what you preach. So listen, thank you everybody for joining us on Tami's Table. We will be back next Monday for another, what I'm kind of calling Lunch and Learn. Grab your food, grab your stuff, come on, and feel free to interact. So Sharon, thank you so much. And we will see you all back next week at 12 o'clock on Tami's Table.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.